Okay. Thanks, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Staff, are we ready? Okay.
Yes, we're ready.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, we'll open this meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. It's Monday, the 19th of April. It is 1:32 p.m., and we'll start with roll call. Go ahead.
President Scott Harris,
Present.
Robert Tamez. Oh, I see you there, but I can't hear you.
I'm
Very
here.
good, thank you. Diana Summers, Robert Tamez.
Present.
Leah Olivari. Oh, I see you there, but I can't hear you. Leah Olivari,
Very
good, thank you. Diana Summers, Robert Tamez,
Present.
Lee Trujillo. Leah Olivari.
Present.
Oh, I see you there, but I can't hear you. John Valls, Leah Olivari. I see you, but I don't hear you.
Present.
Alan Wilson,
Present.
thank you. Alan Wilson,
Present.
thank you. We do have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir. We do have public comment for this meeting. And
Mr. Harris, before that, we did have an absence at the last meeting. Mr. Valls, would the board like to consider excusing that before we move on?
okay, John says he's not going to request a excused absence.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay,
And I see Ms. Olivari has arrived.
yes. Please
Thank
note
you.
that for record.
Yes, so noted.
So we do have public comment. Has the board had a chance to review public comment? I think we have one call in.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do we want to queue that up right now?
Yes, so I just received one more also that I will email to y'all shortly and print for y'all, but we do have one caller.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Hunter, I'm gonna go ahead, if you could just state your name and address and then go into your public comment, and you'll have 3 minutes, okay? Hello? Yeah, let me put you online. Just state your name, address, and then go into your public comment. And I'm going to put you on just now, just a moment. Okay. Okay, Mr. Hunter, you can go ahead and make your public comment. Oh. Yes, sir. Can you go ahead and try your public comment? Just a moment. Okay, go ahead and start your name and your address.
Okay, my name is Todd Hunter Jr., and my address is 13526 Catamaran Drive, Corpus Christi, Texas.
Okay, go ahead and go into your public comment.
My name is Todd Hunter. I'm here today to address the board about the piers and the docks here in Corpus Christi Marina. Topic of discussion for today, and I wanted to encourage the entire board to address the piers, take any consideration their improvement, fixing them up. It's a very serious matter. I don't know a lot of board members, but for a little background on myself, I have been sailing down at the Corpus Christi Marina since I was about 13 years of age, sailed all kinds of boats, different organizations. events and different organizations come down there, but I would say that I'm more involved in the sailing regattas. Right now, that is probably the oldest dock in the marina. It's not a floating dock, and it was severely damaged by Hannah. I also used to be a tenant on that dock, and it is pretty much in a point of, it's just unsafe to go visit or walk down because of the destruction due to the hurricane. But the economic importance of that dock is that out-of-town visitors often come to the yacht club for these sailing events, and then we have to utilize that dock because of the proximity of the club. Of course, it is not owned by the Corpus Christi Yacht Club. It is a public dock that has many tenants that are not even Corpus Christi Yacht Club members. It just happens to be utilized by the club often because a lot of our members want to have a slip spot next to the club so that they can go in and use those different amenities at different times. But
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that is 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hunter. This is Scott Harris, Board Chair, and we appreciate your public comment. The board's not required to respond to it, but we do have your written statement for the record as well. Thank you very much.
Sorry for the
Okay.
mix-up.
Thank you. So, for the record, we do have 2 or 3 additional written public comments. And again, those are for record, for the board's review, and we're not going to make any comment on them at this time. Has the board had a chance to review those? Yes? Okay. Okay. With that, does that close public comment, Mr. Wren? Okay.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Yes.
Thank you. Item D on the agenda is approval of minutes from our March 15th regular meeting. Has the board had a chance to review? And do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed,
Aye.
say no. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our financial report. Ms. Heather?
I'm sorry, do you have your microphone on? We can't hear you. Norma, is the green button in front of you pushed for the public microphone?
Okay, try it. Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, there's one right in front of you, Norma, for the public microphone.
Okay, right there.
No, still no sound.
Oh, here it is. Okay, now try it.
Testing?
Now we're
There we
you
go.
I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Some trial and error, but we got it. Anyway, so starting at next slide, please. Okay, so starting out with the seawall fund. We began the year with an allocated fund balance of about almost $45 million. Year to date, we've collected $3.1 million. We've had expenditures to date of $7.6 million, which is primarily for the transfer into the CIP fund for capital projects and for our debt service on the debt for the seawall. That leaves us with an ending fund balance of about $40.2 million, ending February 28th. Next slide, please. For the Arena Fund, we began the year with a fund balance of $16.5 million. We have revenues to date of $3.1 million, expenditures to date also $3.1 million, which again is primarily our debt service, along with the transfer into the Visitor Facility Fund, leaving us an ending fund balance of $16.5 million. Next slide, please. And the Economic Development Fund started out the fiscal year with a fund balance of $6.3 million. And just a reminder that this fund is no longer receiving any allocations of sales tax. So the revenues are primarily related to investment interest on the investments of the fund balance. We have expenditure to date of $664,000, which is primarily the incentives that are paid out through our recurring, those annual commitment, the contracts that we have, leaving us with an ending fund balance of $5.6 million. Now, we do have outstanding commitments of $4.5 million, so that leaves us a fund balance of $1.1 million available for commitments. Next slide, please. So these are the outstanding commitments for the affordable housing of $687,000, primarily for the home buyer assistance, the Fish Pond Development, and the Community Development Corporation of Brownsville. And this shows when they are scheduled to be paid out as of right now. Next slide, please. Looking at our major business incentives, we have $2.9 million in outstanding business incentives related to our major business programs, primarily for the International Consulting Engineers, Texas A&M Civil and Engineering, Industrial Engineering, and our DMC Foundation. Next slide, please. And then our small business projects, there's $654,000 in contracts that are outstanding commitments, and these are primarily those annual contracts that we enter into for the different programs that we offer and partner with either Texas A&M, Del Mar College, the LIFT Fund, and SCORE. Next slide, please. Our sales tax revenues year to date, we are performing well right now. As of the end of February, collections are $423,000 more than what was budgeted for this time period. We have gotten the results for the collections for March. They were slightly down, but it still was not. We're still going to be ahead year to date. So we have a total of $6.2 million in collections year to date, which again is $423,000 more than what was budgeted for. And that does conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, do we have questions from the board members? Anybody? Robert, do you have any questions? Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll skip on down to item G on our agenda. Item 3 is our resolution authorizing the expenditure of seawall funds in the amount of $14.29 million for the Marina capital improvement projects. We have a presentation from staff. Who's going to
Yes.
present?
Yeah, Neiman Young is gonna start the presentation.
Good afternoon, board. I want to take this time out to thank you all for the opportunity to provide some time to entertain our proposal today. I figured that I'd kick this meeting off with a description of exactly why we're here today. What happened was we had changeover in the Marina leadership, as you all are all fully aware. Previous leadership had brought a CIP, short-term CIP, to the Type A board for Type A funding, which was approved. The problem was that the old management for the Marina really didn't have a strong background in marina maintenance and facilities operations, and therefore they really didn't have a good understanding of the priorities that need to be addressed in the CIP for this year. So if what you all see, if you reference the slide, next to the red bracket, those were the approved projects that were captured in the CIP for fiscal year 21. And what you'll notice is that those projects are facilities focused, basically repairing buildings and infrastructure in the department. However, when we got new leadership in, people with that background in marina maintenance and marina facility operations, Mr. Atwood himself was asked by the city manager to take a look at, some of the priorities in the facility and see if we had a real good handle on the exact needs that were required by the marina. And what Jonathan discovered was, hey, why we're spending all of this money on facility maintenance, we're not even generating the revenue to make sure that the marina is self-sustaining. And so he quickly identified that we needed to repurpose these fundings, get them out of facility and infrastructure repair, and actually pour those dollars into revenue generation so we can actually make the marina self-sustaining and operating like a proper business is supposed to operate. So what we're asking for you all to do here today is basically to provide us an opportunity to repurpose this funding that was approved by the Type A board. And we ask that this funding not only be repurposed to the piers, which is revenue generating, but we're also asking that that funding be escalated. Instead of splitting the funding over fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22, we're asking that all the monies be made available in fiscal year 21. And after we go through the presentations and show you the deterioration that's going on in the marina, you'll see why our request is emergent and why we're really asking that these funds be escalated. Next slide. So here's the marina, and the purpose of this slide is not to show you all where the location of the marina is. Everybody knows where the marina is located. What we're trying to graphically depict to you is the fact that the marina stands as the economic front door to the downtown area. If we don't address the marina, then basically everything that's anchored around the marina, which is the downtown area, will suffer. And as you'll note in the presentation or impact study that was provided to you all by Dr. Lee, he really does do a good job of detailing how the region around the marina will be negatively impacted if we don't take the time to invest in that facility. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Atwood, and he's going to provide you all the technical expertise and detail exactly what are those problems that we're experiencing right in the center of our downtown area.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for your time this afternoon. So as Neiman addressed here in the beginning, gave us a good overview of what we are looking at doing. If you'll go to the next slide, please. So here's a overview of the Corpus Christi Marina. We're looking at 5 docks. L dock, which is the oldest dock in the marina, is a standing wood pier. And docks A, B, C, and D that are all floating docks that were replaced in the early 1990s. We'll go to the next slide. Floating docks A, B, C, and D are in need of replacement. Life expectancy about 25 years on a wood floating dock with galvanized hardware. And we're sitting down in one of the toughest environments really in the world. Salt air, consistent high winds. So we have plastic flotation. These docks are primarily used in freshwater environments, and we're seeing serious deterioration, as you can see in the wood in that picture right there. As everything on a house or anywhere else, they have undersized electric cables and PVC pipes that we broke almost every PVC pipe on these docks during the freeze. So if we want to keep customers, we need to upgrade the electric and upgrade the plumbing, as well as replace these docks. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the east side, or northeast side of D dock. Hurricane Hannah produced 4-foot tides, or 4 foot above normal, as well as large waves that came across the bay, damaging this pier by coming in between the 2 T-heads. As you can see in the forefront of this picture, one of these finger piers completely broke off. So we did have customers, these piers were completely full at the time of Hurricane Hannah, so there were boats tied to these finger piers when that occurred. Next slide, please. Here's another shot of further down on the left of D dock, and in the right picture is one of these supports that holds these docks in place around the pilings, as well as one of our older electrical pedestals. As you can see, it is leaning, collapsing under the weight of the pedestal, the metal frame, as well as just the deterioration over time. Next slide, please. Once again, we have materials falling off the dock, and then in the right picture there, you see the galvanized hardware that's completely deteriorating away. Many of the issues we're having is with these bolts failing. They have deteriorated, they've gone beyond their life expectancy, and pieces of the dock are breaking apart because of this. Next slide, please. L dock is fixed wood piling and wood decking dock. It does not move with the tide like these newer floating docks do. One of the issues with that is as the tide rises, it covers the dock and it starts pushing the boards loose. This dock has a lot of the same issues as the others with this hardware failing, deteriorating, corroding in the environment. So as this happens, it just becomes easier for these boards to come loose, for this dock to become unstable. The end of L dock is currently condemned. We have it roped off, and we had to remove all the vessels from it, so we are losing revenue on those slips. And we did have this pier mostly full when Hurricane Hannah hit, so there were docks or boats in this dock whenever Hurricane Hannah hit that we had to remove. It has the same issue as the other docks, older undersized electric cables, and the PVC plumbing on this dock completely shattered, and there's currently no water to this dock, and we're working on repairing that temporarily until we can get it replaced. Next slide, please. Here's one of the finger piers where the boats are actually tied to. As you can see, same thing happened. The boards came loose, so they could not access their boat easily after the storm, providing an unsafe environment for the tenants. Next slide, please. Something else that we need to address is the dredging. There have only been 2 permits pulled that I'm aware of for this marina since 1940. With the larger ships coming in and out of the port, with the daily use of the marina, with the winds that we have in Corpus, there is a large amount of silt building up inside the marina. This silt is restricting access to slips for boats of the proper size to fit in those slips. So right now, if I have a 50-foot slip, I can barely put a 20 or 25-foot boat in some of these slips just due to the issue with the depth of the water. So that's something else we're going to address in this left-hand picture here. It's about 5.5 foot deep right where that boat is. That boat many times of the year is sitting on the bottom. And a short distance away is where I took this other picture. It's only 2.5 feet deep. You could pretty much walk from the entrance of that pier out to that boat if you had to. Next slide, please. These are the older power pedestals. They're a wood structure, exposed conduit, older electrical meters attached to it, as well as no lighting on the pedestal. Cable and internet box is just bolted to the side. This is exposed to elements, exposed to people walking by to damage it. And we're having issues with many of these pedestals because right now a lot of them do not properly record the amount of electric used. That becomes an issue with the tenant whenever we go to charge them for that electric use. Next slide, please. So these are newer power pedestals. Some of these you may find in the newer parts of the marina that have been replaced. Everything is enclosed, clean, has light on top of the pedestal, which provides ambient lighting for the walkway, as well as enhancing the overall view of the marina at night. If you're strolling along the seawall and you look down in the marina and you see these multiple lighted pedestals along the docks, it really provides a neat glow, helps the tenants get to and from their boats, and really improves the downtown area. Next slide, please. So the suggestion is to replace these older wooden docks with a modern concrete marine dock system. Life expectancy is much longer, almost twice, 40 to 50 years. Aluminum and stainless hardware mounted to the wood. We don't have issues with dissimilar metals and the wrong materials for the environment that we live in. Updated plumbing. All the plumbing on the newer docks in the marina that had this HDPE survived without any issues. We were able to turn the water back on shortly after the freeze. Properly sized electrical cables. Many of the boats these days draw a lot more power than the older boats do, with multiple air conditioners down here in Corpus Christi, Texas. These are heavier docks, so they do provide some wave attenuation. That helps when we have storms like Hannah trying to push through the area with high tides and high waves. These docks will not sustain near the amount of damage that the wood docks sustained in Hurricane Hannah. Next slide, please. There are several Texas marinas that have these concrete docks already. This has pretty much been the go-to solution for coastal areas. City of Aransas Pass installed concrete docks. There's a marina called Pelican Rest Marina in Galveston, Texas. As you can see the super yacht in that photo, they call themselves the White Glove Marina of the Texas coast, something that I would love to bring down here someday. Next slide, please. UTMSI, the Science Institution, right on the ship channel in Port Aransas. After Hurricane Harvey, they replaced all of their older wooden docks with these concrete docks. They are probably one of the most exposed marinas on the Texas coast, and this was their choice of dock for future development. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Island Moorings in Port Aransas replaced after Hurricane Harvey as well. This is a private marina here in the area. I believe they spent 30 million or so to do this renovation, and they went with a concrete dock system as well. And you can see there, this was shortly after they replaced everything. They just have a few boats in there. Next slide, please. But you can tell it's much cleaner, and much stronger, and I believe much improved over the wood docks. Next slide. Port Aransas Municipal Marina. I would say this is our competition in this area. And I could probably point out 3, 4, maybe 5 boats in this picture that have left Corpus Christi Marina and gone over to Port Aransas Marina after they replaced their docks and put these concrete docks in. Port Aransas Marina had a concrete dock system put in shortly before Hurricane Harvey, and it only sustained $14,000 in damage and was still there after the storm with the boats tied to it, something we cannot say about our wood docks in this marina. Next slide, please. A lot of customers that keep their boats in Port Aransas are there because of these docks. If you have your $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 vessel, this is the kind of dock you're going to want to tie to, and that is apparent in these pictures. Island Moorings and Port Aransas were replaced at the same time. Port Aransas is almost at capacity already. Next slide, please. So the Corpus Christi Marina has 629 total slips. 496 of those are floating, 107 are fixed slips like L dock, and then we have 26 dry stand slips. 207 of those slips need to be replaced. That's 33% of the marina. These are our oldest docks in the marina, so they are almost at capacity, or were almost at capacity before Hurricane Hannah destroyed many of the docks. This is kind of our bread and butter in the marina. This is what sustains the business and allows us to keep the doors open. Next slide, please. This is a project budget. It was estimated about $11.5 million to replace A, B, C, and D, and about $3.5 to replace L, so nearly $15 million. I believe we had $4.299 for first and second year of the CIP. So we're very close to that. And dredging estimate is about $5 million. We're working on certificates of obligation and other ways to pay for that. So a total cost of $20 million needing to be put into the marina very soon. Next slide, please. Current revenue on just these docks of about 75% capacity is about $510,000 a year. The marina will increase these slip rates with newer docks and the facilities that we're working on building. We are currently under Island Moorings and Port Aransas Municipal Marinas, and I don't feel I can raise those revenues until we replace these docks. Otherwise, we will just lose people to those marinas. Potential annual revenue listed by dock is figured at 80% capacity with new rates. So we're looking at $633,000, and then over a 40-year life expectancy, that'd be $25 million. These docks are rated for a 50-year, and we have already exceeded the life expectancy of the docks we have. So I can imagine that we would have a lot bigger number there at the end of 50 years. All right, next slide, please. Economic impact, or local economic impact. The role of Corpus Christi Marina as a local economy is far-reaching and broad-based. Following illustrates several snapshots of the economic impacts that can be reasonably quantified. We had Dr. Lee of Texas A&M Corpus Christi do an economic impact study for us, and he came up with some very interesting numbers. We have sailing regattas like the one coming in this July, bring anywhere between 60, 70 to 100 boats, 3 to 4 people per boat, plus families, support staff, anyone that wants to come down and view these regattas. So it's looking at $460,000 in taxes there. Property tax value, about $500,000 in that downtown area. And Bayview revenues, this is revenues, premium revenues from the hotels that overlook the marina of $2.5 million. So we're looking at a total of about $3.4 million, $138 million over 40-year life expectancy. Next slide, please. Hypothetical scenario, if the marine infrastructure was not in good condition, would be a decrease in those property values about 5 to 10%. Employment and business in both downtown and uptown areas within the 78401 zip code is about 13% of those in the entire city. So poorly maintained marina facility would depress those property values. Estimated 5% would translate into a loss of about $235 million in property values and $1.5 million annually for city property taxes. Next slide, please. tourism is a big part of that downtown area, a big part of the seawall, the marina. Second largest economics sector of Corpus Christi. According to tourism data from the Texas Governor Office, visitors make up 10.5 million trips to the metro area. It's 1.5 billion in spending. And their most popular places are the beaches and the waterfront, 49%. Next slide, please. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Take it back 2 slides, please.
My papers were a little off.
One more slide, please.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, Type A fund balance. As of January 2021, looked like we had estimated 42 million in the seawall, 16 in the arena facility, and economic development was 846,000. So we're looking, next slide please, we're looking like we have plenty of money to do a project of this level. Next slide, please. Something that was discussed in some of the meetings that we had was that the seawall fund is going to continue to collect estimated $7.2 million a year for the next 4 years. So there will be plenty of money coming in continually over the next 4 years to handle a project of this level. Next slide, please. All right, so our recommendations are utilize this nearly $15 million in the first year, FY21. We're going to replace piers A, B, C, D, and L, and we're going to push the facilities to the outer years in the CIP. They do need to be addressed at some point in the near future, but we need to handle the business. We need to replace the docks so we can continue to take in the revenue from these docks. All right, next slide, please. And that is all I have for today. Thank you for your time. Hope that you'll consider this and
Thank you, Mr. Atwood.
thank you.
Before we take any comments from the board members, I do want to recognize that the mayor is here. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. Question from the board, Mr. Valls?
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I appreciate that. Gentlemen, I met with y'all and I really appreciated the briefing, and I'm very pleased to see, Peter, that you've got a true maritime professional, you know, with eyes on this valuable asset. And apparently the last CIP that was proposed that we approved was a little short-sighted. So bringing Mr. Atwood in and obviously Neiman's team to really take a look at it and kind of reprioritize where this money should be allocated, and really focusing on the strengths of revenue. Because, I mean, we're going to make a heavy investment here, especially if you want it all at one time. You're going to have provide some type of return on investment. And I'm really glad to see that you guys went out and contacted Dr. Lee and put a true economic impact number to this, so that the council, the mayor's office can really see you know, what a gem we have downtown on the water, but we really have to enhance it. And I know when we met, I would like to see some type of features incorporated in there for the community. Like I mentioned, when I was a kid, we used to go skating down there, and there were bands playing, and it was a really lively place to go. Now, there's really not a whole lot to do there, because I want to think about the locals also, not just the tourists. So I'm very pleased to see this, and I'm glad that you've got a true maritime professional on board. And having said those comments, I'd make a motion to approve item 3, if we can get a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion in 2 seconds. Any further comment? Mr. Temez, did you have?
Yeah, in your funding, I didn't see any.
It hasn't passed yet, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead, ma'am. Mayor?
I'd like to make a quick comment in regards to this item. I thought I'd run over here really quickly because this is extremely important to me. It's extremely important, I think, to all of you. And I thank you for seeing the kind of, I guess we're spending this money in a different way than was initially, right, asked, in the way that it was asked to spend. And I think that's the right thing to do. I think, you know, the roller skating and all those memories we had when we were young out there, and all the activity is something that it is almost a historic point. It is a historic point to Corpus Christi. And I want you to know that this is something that I will personally be working on, because it means so much to me that that entire marina and the T-heads are transformed into what used to be and some. And without you and your board and your vision, that can't be done. So thank you very, very much. I'm so looking forward to working with Jonathan, Peter, Neiman, everyone involved, really. And it starts here, because that marina it's just unbelievable. So I'm very, very excited. And like I said, I just wanted to take a moment to run over here, let you know how I feel about it, because I think our community, sadly, we've lost what that was and what it could be. So thank you very much for today's, really the turn in the direction we're going with the marina. I'm so very excited, and I look very forward to working together and making all of this happen with Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we had a motion and a second on the floor, and Mr. Temez, you had some.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Edward, did you, in the funding that you're asking, do you have any preventive maintenance applied to it?
So yearly, we set aside part of the revenue for maintenance on these docks. The maintenance on these docks currently has exceeded what we have each year to continue with.
So that preventive maintenance is going to be done at annual?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Out of the operating budget. Yes, sir.
And for the public, yeah, we know how much money we have, 44 million. But we have a lot of projects coming up too, so.
Yes,
we
sir.
have to be careful where we give the funding to.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good.
Thanks, Mr. Temez. Ms. Olivari?
I wanted to thank y'all for excellent presentation, good work, well done. I had one little thing that, couple of things that occurred to me while you were talking. So what is the utilization rate? Do you have any idea over in Port Aransas these days? I mean,
Of the total, how many boats
Yeah.
are actually there? I do not have an exact number, but I do know that they have continually taken in boats for as long as I've been keeping track of them.
so the market is bigger.
It is,
That's
yes.
kind of my point.
Yes.
So I don't want people to think we're chasing something that isn't growing.
No,
And
sales exceeded what most dealerships were able to handle this last year. Most of the boat manufacturers cannot put out boats fast enough to keep up with the demand, and a lot of that has to do with COVID and the manufacturing of parts and things like that. So everything I have read, there are a lot of people bringing boats in all over the U.S.
They have good facilities.
Yes.
So, and then I had a question about the transient docks. I understand we had some, or we were sort of required to have some. We will have that plus more with or the same number.
We will have the same number. We still have transient areas,
Okay.
transient docks, and I'm hoping to utilize those for the air show.
Are those open right now and functioning?
Yes.
Because I got a mixed.
Yes, we do have
Report.
transient slips open and available to anyone who calls and needs
Great.
them.
So put that out on the airwaves. And then I just wanted, again, to thank you very much. I think this is really a jewel in our community. And I mean, it is iconic in that sense. And making it first class can only, help our image as well as our economy. So thank you very much for your work.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And, one other thing. I think there's some confusion here. If I understand it, the CIP you presented, Mr. City Manager, had the same projects, but just in a different configuration. So we're basically doing the projects. We're just accelerating those that have revenue potential and backing to the end of the line, the
Right.
ones that are more.
Yeah, that's a good assessment, Ms. Oliveira, yes.
Okay,
Because we
thank
still
you. So
need
we're
all
not-
those
yeah.
facilities that we identified as being issues in terms of they're also falling apart. They're still also falling apart, and so.
So we're just, but this motion allows y'all to go forward at the pace you want, not worrying about the 2-year CIP, or is it still the 15-15 kind of breakout?
This will allow us to get the business back online and produce revenue, which may allow us to do more sooner because we can use some of that revenue to increase some bonded debt right? So the 15 million would be for this year, and then next year we'll assess additional revenues potentially from Type A and our own sources to
Okay.
begin to address some of those facility issues.
That's great.
Yes.
Because I still want the Wi-Fi, you're not going to forget about.
Yeah,
the
that Wi-Fi. Well, yeah, we need to try to do that even sooner. So
Yeah,
yeah.
like before the regatta. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further comments? Diana or Lee, virtual board members?
Yes,
Go ahead, Lee.
Scott, if I can, please. So I'm very happy to see that we have, Neiman appointed to oversee the whole Marina area. And very glad that we have the expertise of Jonathan. This is a significant project for our city. And as John talked about, I would like to see some benefit for our local citizens who are of my era, who do remember utilizing that marina in our early years, to bring people back to the marina, our own citizens. And even those, I've never done this before, but every time I drive by, there's somebody fishing. So I'd like to incorporate some ideas that we can help enhance those folks who do that, and they're not precluded from continuing what they've been doing for decades. We have some huge safety issues here at hand also. A life saved is worth any amount of money. And as far as the vision, it's good to see that, we're moving forward in a manner that will enhance our marina and let us compete with, anybody down the coast. So I appreciate that. 50-year life is significant. So that's great. But, also keeping in mind that, let's do something to enhance also our area citizens that they can utilize, the seaheads. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we? Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you all very much.
Can I just say one thing?
Appreciate it.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, most of you are not old enough to remember this. Maybe Alex is, and maybe Lee, but in the 60s, my family, many Saturdays in the summer, would go to what was called a hootenanny. And if you're a country and western fan, you may remember that there was a group called the Pozo Seco Singers, and Don Williams, who later became famous, was a member of that band. So there were events on the T-heads that were family-oriented, that were a lot of fun, and look forward maybe to being able to do that again.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Scott, one more comment, please. Scott, one more comment.
Yeah. I have one idea, because I go down there and walk some, and I think what the improvements y'all are making will be more walkable, but if you could maybe think about activities on the walk, whether it's places you can clock in or ways to get people to really see that as a walking area as well as that's up your alley,
Right.
Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, and if I can, so the mayor who was here, she and I spoke last week about this, and very similar comments as we're hearing right now.
Right.
One thing we're going to do is we'll do this using either the marina's revenues or the city's revenues, but we're going to hire a consultant to master plan the two T-heads and the L-head
Right.
before we do anything, right? In fact, there was something that was going to take place, but we want to first figure out what should we do from a good architectural standpoint. And so we're going to get that going relatively quickly and see how can we bring back this as a great destination, which it once was. So that's on the works as well, or in the works as well.
Fabulous.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, and
Scott, I have one more comment.
yeah, go ahead, Lee. I heard you.
The one thing I did learn from Jonathan was that not only is this available for folks who keep their yachts on the marina, but there's every year there's opportunity for local citizens to come down there and learn how to sail free of charge. So this is something that we live by the bay, we have the wind, and I think a lot of people think it's outside of their grasp. but you really don't know until you give it a try. So it is important. I want to let the community know that sailing opportunities and lessons are available for you. And Jonathan will be, putting that out as far as, hey, windows are available and what you need to do to get started in the sailing business. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our presentation item number 4, which is our quarterly update from engineering services. Mr. Edmonds?
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeff Edmonds, Director of Engineering Services. Let me get the next slide. This is our quarterly engineering update. As you know, these are 2 projects that we've been reporting on. We did a condition assessment with funding from Type A seawall, and we are in design right now of various repairs and upgrades to these facilities, the Art Center and the Art Museum, mainly aimed at building envelope problems, water entrance into the buildings. But there are 2 bid packages being developed, and those are going to be advertising probably within the next few months. Next slide. Okay, the seawall capital repairs project, and this is one that we put out for bid about this time last year, and we only received 2 bids, and there was a big gap between the 2 bids, and there were some questions about the responsibilities of the low bidder, so we tapped the brakes on that, and we put that back out. Council awarded a contract on this last month, and we're actually having a pre-construction conference on this at the moment. So work is going to be starting out there real soon, and this is mainly addressing kind of minor, what I would call minor structural issues, cracking, spalling, joints that need repair. But in addition, it's going to repaint the top step, and there's some skate stops to be installed there to stop sort of misuse by skateboarders. And it's going to replace some things like missing broken water fountains, missing benches, that sort of thing. So there's a cosmetic element to this as well, and it's projected to take about 6 months to complete. Next slide. Okay, Sea District water features. So as you know, when we were reviewing the CIP last year, the staff made an ask to put in $10 million to restore both of those features. We exceeded the budget tolerance of the Type A board, and we left $2 million to do the Bayshore fountain over by American Bank Center, but the money was stripped out for the water garden. Since that time, another part of that story, we had put it out for bid early last year, and we got no bids on it. That might have partly been due to the start of the COVID epidemic, but in consultation with some contractors is how we developed that budget, and we came back to you. The breakdown was roughly 8 and 2, 8 for the water garden, 2 for the Bayshore Park, and that was a figure that staff felt highly confident we could get the work done for that, but it exceeded I guess the budget tolerance of the Type A board. Since that time, we have done some value engineering on the design for the water garden. We think we can come up with a solution that's going to be roughly about half what we'd previously estimated, and we're in the process now of developing a design build package to put this out on the street, and the hope is that we'll come up with a bid that will be within the budget tolerance of Type A board and come back and get that re-added to the CIP. So we're hoping to have a real number in hand, and you guys are going to be discussing the CIP in the June, July timeframe. So we hope to have that information available by then. But you'll be given another opportunity to consider that. Next slide. Oh, let me back up. The other thing I mentioned, the Bayshore Fountain, we've been using maintenance contractors rather than putting that out as like a construction design bid build contract. Asset management has been working on that, and they have get that nearly back into fully operational status, and there's also some savings that's resulting from that. So next slide. Okay, the McGee Beach Breakwater Project, that is out for bid currently, and this is doing restoration on the first 1,800 feet that extends out from McGee Beach. This is the area where there's a concrete cap. It's going to restore the elevation on that. It's going to widen out that concrete cap, put a new cap on there, and raise the elevation up about a foot, so you'll get some better wave sheltering on that. And of course, folks also like to go out there on that and fish. We're not going to discourage that, but we're not exactly permitting it for that use, but that would be, there's going to be no problem if people use it for that. Bids are opening actually tomorrow on that. Wednesday. Next slide. Okay, Salt Flats levee improvements. This project was on pause for a little while because there was some uncertainty about how the harbor bridge was going to interact with the southern part of this. We have taken the foot off the brake on that. We're currently at 90% design, and we hope to have this project out for bid probably next month or early June. And again, this is making structural improvements to the levee, which is kind of the back door into downtown. It is a vulnerability to the downtown flood protection system, and we're hoping to shore that up. Next slide. All right, this is a project that is on pause. It is in the approved CIP, but staff felt like before we move forward and design this, we needed to get a better definition on what the future of this area is going to be between the port and the Corps of Engineers. So we're kind of on pause on that project until we can get more of a defined plan, and there's been some discussion that the Corps of Engineers might be looking to relocate out of that facility, and that site could possibly be repurposed. Next slide.
Edmund, in reference to that, has Port Commissioner Brian Gully approached you, anything in reference to conversation?
I haven't had any conversation.
He
with
has
him.
approached me, but I said you'd be the man to talk to, or the city manager. So,
I would refer him to the city manager.
okay.
I haven't spoken with Port Commissioner Gully, he said.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, he hasn't approached me. Are you talking about for the boardwalk or that?
Yeah, he's interested in it because he was here with the board when we first talked about this project.
Right. Yeah, we're going to, one thing we learned recently is actually all that property is owned by the port of Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
And so we need some revenue sharing from them. It's, right now, we would be paying the full freight for this, which to me doesn't seem right since it's all port property. Yeah. So we're going to see how we can share this budget since they own the property. We don't want to, we want to help them, but last time I checked, they had a lot of revenues coming in, more than us, so, yes, sir.
Okay. And this last slide was just, there was that catch-all project that we had done preliminary engineering on several of these facilities, and so those things, there's some preliminary engineering reports that have been done, and those will be considered for inclusion in the CIP as we're updating it this year. And that, next slide, I think that's my last one. Oh, this is the pier replacement project. We've just discussed that project at length, and we're putting that out to procure a design consultant on that. And the thought is that we could put this out as a design build. Some of these docks are manufactured by people that are vertically integrated. In other words, they not only manufacture the docks, but they design the marinas and they install the docks, and we think this would be a good fit for a design build type procurement. Next slide. Now I'm at the end.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Do we have any questions from board members right now? Solivari?
Yeah, I'm curious about something. You said that the port owns. Does that mean they own all the way around to the barge dock, or in front of the art museum and around?
Everything,
Really?
yeah, if you put that slide back up, everything that walkway would improve is all property owned by the port.
So that seawall was in essence built by them when the channel was done?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. There was some, there's some history in that area, but,
A little bit further back.
yeah, go back a few more slides.
That
Yeah,
one.
there it is, so,
Interesting. I don't remember that coming up when we were talking about the FEMA stuff. That's why.
yeah, a lot of that's
I
owned.
need to, we probably need to compare notes on this.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I know that at a minimum, they've got frontage on it. I think they've got some ownership.
Yeah.
Of the
but-
seawall structure, probably, yeah.
Yeah, the sea, right. I think it's of that green area. It kind of stumbled upon our attention. We were looking at something else with Dan McGinn, our planner, and he had color-coded maps that showed who owns what. There's three property owners in this area: the city, the port, and is it the general
Corps of
land
Engineers.
the Corps of Engineers. And so I believe, we'll compare notes, Jeff and I, but most of, if not all of that, is owned by the port.
Interesting.
Yes.
Learn something every day.
Okay. Mr. Vols?
Peter, along those lines, well, if we don't own the property, then we can't improve on it unless we have a interlocal agreement with them and have a cost sharing. But
Right.
I wouldn't want us to spend our money improving somebody else's property.
Well, that's why we decided to take a pause and and reevaluate it.
Well,
We could improve maybe the edge, of the, not necessarily the top part of the walk, but the sea wall, so to speak, itself, to prevent flooding in the downtown area. But the amenity of having if you go back to the picture of having the walkway,
Yeah.
that's a big part of the budget, and we're improving basically the port's property. That you can see that second picture, that. So.
And let me ask a question going back to the marina. I know that you have 5 million in there for dredging.
Right.
And a lot of that silt that's, building in, obviously I would think come from, a lot of the tanker traffic, and not so much the barge traffic, but
That's a
the
good
tanker
point.
traffic. Does the port have a trust fund or any kind of a maintenance fund that they can use in order to impact affected areas?
That's a good point. We'll find out. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if the really it's the tanker traffic. If the tanker traffic's causing, all that sediment to be shifting away, and it's really coming into our neighborhood, they should help, or let's just explore, if there's an opportunity for them to help.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
I do have a little bit of data on that. If we go forward a couple of slides, I'm sorry, the other way. I'm backwards. Not that one. That one. So as part of this project, there were some areas within the marina that were targeted for dredging, where there had been shoaling that was causing an issue to navigation. We were struggling with a place to dispose of the dredge material, and the best answer we came up with was using dredge material placement area that is owned and operated by the port.
Right.
And they actually have a cost to us to discharge in their dredge material placement area. So we have an interlocal agreement that has actually been approved by council as part of this project to place material in the port's dredge material placement area. You know, that we are paying a fee to the port to discharge the dredge material in their placement area. And then we've agreed to do that, but if anybody's having some conversations among friends, there might be.
Is it substantial?
It's, well, I wouldn't want to pay it out of my pocket, but I can't remember how much it was per cubic yard.
Jeff, it's about $9 per cubic yard, and this project has about 40,000 cubic yards being removed.
Yeah, and there's full disclosure, he's the design engineer, so that's.
Yeah, that's substantial. Well, I mean, we need to look at that. If there's a relief opportunity, you know.
Has anybody gone and seen this, this project that we're talking about? Because on the picture right there that's existing right now, it's deceiving, because if you walk out there, you can see that big drop, and you see big concrete slabs there. And it comes to a dead end at the Art Museum, so people will be able to go and come back, but not be able to exit out that way on the south side of it.
Oh, you're talking back about the bulkhead?
Yes.
Out at the waterfront, at the harbor?
Each one of us needs to go and see it before we even discuss it or talk about it.
And if there's, I don't see any further question. I have one comment to make.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. So you had mentioned that this breakwater project is 1,800 linear feet. Today we just made a big investment to the marina, but I haven't seen any plan to improve any more of the breakwater. So I think that's something that the city needs to look at and consider. And I think I had a conversation with you or maybe somebody else about the breakwater itself, the rock breakwater, not being within the 710.
The land patent area.
Land patent area, 710 acre land patent area that was, that the city
Part
received
extends beyond
as
that
part
to
of
the
the
east, that's
seawall.
correct.
So, as far as the use of seawall funds, I'd like to see where the breakwater falls in to that, maybe, and this is, I guess, a future agenda item, but I'd like to see some kind of map that proves that breakwater is not it's either in or out of that 700 acre area, and whether or not we can use seawall funds to improve that breakwater, and how much of that breakwater in the future, because I think without improving the breakwater, we're putting money into a marina that's not even protected.
Well, that is definitely on Jonathan's radar, and he's put it on our radar, and I think we're aware that this is not it's a step in the right direction, but there's a much longer journey ahead to address both the sea level rise and the settlement and displacement that's occurred over time with the breakwater.
Okay. I guess that comment spurred some additional comments.
So that
Leah.
means that GLO may have a bit of a partnership opportunity.
You have your mic on?
Yes, that means General Land Office, who I believe would be the appropriate state agency, since they are basically dealing, with those that's.
Submerged lands, yeah.
That's state of Texas, not federal right there.
Yeah, the area where it would be beyond that would be within their jurisdiction.
And they're the ones that do a lot of now the storm mitigation and disaster recovery money. So that might be a place to look for some assistance.
Okay. Any further comments?
I was just going to say, if you could, Chair, that this improved, what was it, 20% or 30% of that breakwater? Remember we calculated it?
I think we calculate about 25%.
So this addresses about a quarter, the project that Jeff went over with you, but the other 75%, it's critical. So we'll bring you that analysis for our next meeting.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm talking about the outer breakwater.
Yeah.
The breakwater, it's the rock.
Yeah, that's the
breakwater.
one, right. The project will address 25% of it, but 75% is still to be done.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Any further comments from the board? Any comments for Jeff? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item I on the agenda is Executive Director comments.
The only comment is just to thank the board for the hard work in analyzing that project that we brought to you today. We appreciate your open-mindedness and critical thought when it comes to projects in general, using the sales tax, but also in this case, understanding the value that Jonathan Atwood has placed on getting the business running first before we do too much in terms of amenities. So we'll be taking that item to City Council next week, and we'll probably have some good publicity. So we'll keep you all linked in to that as well. And
Thank you.
that would be our comments for today.
Thank you. Item J on the is adjournment. So the time is now 2:38, and I call the meeting to adjournment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Josh.